Welcome to episode 7, Think What You Will podcast here with Jason Suarez and Rodrigo Puentes. And today our topic is the importance of networking in all of our lives. So go ahead, Rodrigo, and let's start this episode.
All right. So first of all, let's talk about what networking is. Networking for me is like, developing professional and social contacts with other people. No matter what the age is, I think it's important to have different contacts, whether they're older, slightly younger, in between your age. So I think it's very important for people to have different, knowing different people, having different networks, because that's how opportunities come. And if you're especially an entrepreneur, it's really important for you to have several contacts in different countries so you can grow your business. And if you're an athlete, just in general, I think as a person, it's important to know people. What about you, Jason?
For sure. You can know a lot of people, but here's my question. Like, you can know a lot of people. Let's say I go to school and whatever. I know technically a lot of people, maybe even technically have a lot of friends. But would that be considered networking or not?
I think networking is more of a professional relationship with someone else rather than friendship.
Okay,
but
so
let's
say compare it.
Go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go first.
Okay, so along with your point, let's say if I had a lot of friends, but very few, work acquaintances and people that could give me job opportunities, that's considered networking or no?
Well, you can have friends in all different places, and I would say it's networking as well because they can provide opportunities.
Okay.
I think.
And what if I had a few friends, like a really small group of friends, but I knew a lot of people in an industry, for example? But what do you classify that as?
I don't know if that's networking, because for me, networking is more of it's more like with people that can help you or give you opportunities to, climb up the social ladder, make money and develop yourself and grow. For example, I would consider some of my friends like people I know through networking and developed a friendship with them.
Yeah.
But some friends I have, I don't consider networking because they're my friends. And if they ever are successful, I would love to explore an opportunity with them. But they're my friends.
I see. I'm asking that because that's something I not think about often, but something I do think about sometimes, and I consider, I start, worrying, oh, am I networking enough? For example, sure, I go to university. I know people, for example, in my class. I know a couple of people around university, and sometimes I think I'm worried oh, am I not networking enough? Do I need to meet from people from the other classes and meet more teachers and things like that? For example, what would you say I would need to do, for example?
For what would you have, what would you do?
Well, what I should do to, for example, network more?
I think that you should introduce yourself to different teachers, even if you don't have them. Establish a professional relationship, get to know them a bit, because it's always good to know people. It doesn't hurt to know people, and it doesn't hurt to have a respectful relationship with them. For me, when I was in Macau, I networked more I talked to all different kinds of coaches, have their phone numbers, have their contacts. I use social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, and other platforms to keep in touch, Facebook as well, to keep in touch. In America, when I went to America, I befriended the teachers. I had a good professional relationship with all my teachers, and even teachers I didn't have classes with my coaches. I guarantee you that I have most of them within my Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. And I talk to them every now and then, see how they are, check up, because I feel like it's important to keep in touch as well, to have that respectful relationship with them. And I would recommend it for everybody to meet people and to establish at least not a close relationship, but a respectful relationship where If you need something, as in like, oh, could you help me get a job or something? They'd be like, yeah, why
Mhm.
not? Things like that.
Okay.
Don't you
So
think that?
it could be a professional relationship too, right? But
Yeah.
does it require constant active communication with them, like constantly talking with them, messaging them, for
I
example?
feel like if you're around them, like let's say at school, and you see them at school, I think you should, when you see them, have a say good morning, how are you? Maybe have a bit of a conversation, or just say how are you? I'm doing good, thank you, fine. You go to your class, you go to their class, like just talking about teachers. If you see them on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, I feel like it's important to say hello, be respectful, maybe develop a small conversation every now and then. But if you're far away, let's say you move away, maybe like it wouldn't hurt for you to say hello, how are you every like once a year, or text them on their birthday, for example. That's what mostly I do. I always wish a happy birthday, check in, how are you doing, and it stays like
Mhm.
that. Sometimes more than others, but it depends on the person as well. If I'm closer to them, if not. But I've always tried to establish a respectful level relationship with everybody I like associate with. And of course, some people don't like me. I don't like some people. Blah blah. It's normal, but especially with like coaches, teachers, people that could help me in my future. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, I asked that because, like, sure, I also know a lot of people, for example, coaches back in Macau and things like that. But then, like, obviously, now that I'm in Portugal, I don't have an active contact with them. Like, I don't, ask them things on a daily basis, right? And most of my contacts with them are professional ones, like through WhatsApp and things. And sometimes it's like, I guess it's considered networking, right? Like, if I ever went back to Macau, like, I could always, message them and be like, hey, I'm back here, I'm back here for the summer, for example. I was considering that this summer, maybe heading back to Macau and then
Yeah,
being, talking to them, meeting out for coffee or something. And because we have a respectful relationship, we've worked together and things like that,
yeah,
we could talk about business proposals and things like that, right?
yeah. I agree with you 100%. Like, and then if you go back to visit, like right now I'm in Italy, I have a respectful relationship with my coaches.
Mm.
I meet some of the other team's coaches as well. Add them on Instagram or wherever else, what applications they use. Sometimes I get their phone number because it's important. Because you never know who is going to be that person that's going to open the big door for you, and it's always like nice to know different kinds of people that can help you in your life. It's not being an opportunist. It's not being that. It's just being respectful and knowing people. It's really important. I can tell you that most successful people are successful because they work hard and because they met different kinds of people who throughout have helped them achieve more and bigger things. So you cannot be successful on your own. It's impossible. At some point, you will need the help of someone. And the more people you know, the easier it is.
And there's quite a few celebrities. I can't, name any specific right off the top of my head. But there's a lot who built their images, for example, through their networking, and they necessarily
Yeah.
didn't have anything special about them. Like they weren't talented in anything crazy, but they had a marketing. No,
Yeah.
it's true. Like sure, there's
It's true. It's true. It's true.
but like, some got to that place in time, when it come with, for example, the help of, their contacts and building a team, right? That
Yeah.
works for them and things like that. That's really, really important. That's also something I'm trying to do a little bit more now. It's like meet different people, make sure to, make good impressions. I feel like first impressions are really, really important. And for
Yeah, they
example,
are. First,
networking, what do
first
you think about
impressions
that?
last. First impressions last.
Yeah,
I
I
agree
mean,
with you.
right, yeah, of course. And then obviously you've got to carry that on a little bit, keep in contact with them and stuff, and build like hopefully a connection there, right? A relationship in a sense.
I agree with you. First impressions are really important. Some people don't think they are, and then when they meet, they don't even know they're meeting somebody who has a lot of connections
Mm-hmm.
or who has money and opportunities, and they give a really bad first impression. And for that person, they'll just probably like, just another person with they don't care about. and then
Hmm.
an opportunity slipped away. Because the good thing about networking is you meet people who then know other people, because then you're not like, let's say you meet someone and that person knows five people that could help you, and those five people then know somebody, some other five. Then it's not just one, it's like a network of 20, 50 people that could possibly help you just based off of one person. And people don't consider this, and it's really important.
Yeah, and you always have to be prepared to meet those kind of people. You never know when they show up, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's important to always be prepared. Always look good, always be ready. Be on time and stuff. Like, that's a
Yeah.
very important first impression. If you show up to something, even if it's hosted by somebody else, you know what I mean, and there's another person who maybe is of interest, participating in things, and they notice things like you showing up late. Obviously, they're gonna make that their first impression and stuff. So
Yeah.
be careful, be respectful, be prepared, look good, be on time. All those are very, very important things, I think.
Now I want to ask you something. Do you always do your best to look presentable, good? Are you always on time as well? Like, do you do these things that you're saying?
Most, yes. Especially, I think the on time thing is a very important thing for me. I've, man, held that up for a lot of years. I've been always known as the on time guy. Um, being to occasions on time and things like that. But obviously, like, it's situational, right? There's things that happen in life, that sometimes delay you, and unforeseen circumstances can affect you, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
impossible that every day of your life, 365 days a year, for all of your life, that you get up ready and get perfectly ready, right? Sometimes you forget something, But in general, yes, I do follow those rules. What about you?
I would say yes. And if I'm ever late, it's because of a good reason. I don't make excuses as to why I'm late. I just am honest. Like, let's say I finish practice, I have to come home, shower, eat, and then I have to go to class, and I'm late to class.
Hmm.
When I go into class, I like, as I enter, I tell the teacher, "Hey, look, I'm sorry I'm late, but I had to do all of these things before I came to class. I apologize that I'm late. I'm here now because it's work, and they accept it." Um, when, let's say, if I'm late for a lunch, I make sure to text, say what the
Hmm.
reason is, and be like, "Oh, I'll be there in 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 10." But I feel like if you're ever late, you gotta have that respect to let the other person know why. You know, let's say if you and I plan to meet up, and you're 20 minutes late, and if you don't say anything, I'll just leave. To be honest, like, if you don't tell me anything, I'll just like, at this point, I might as well just well go home. I don't know if you're ever gonna get there.
Yeah,
But
of course.
these are important traits that I think that people should have in mind. And I don't think a lot, especially people our age, don't value that a lot.
Yeah, and then those opportunities that you get, for example, you have to learn how to communicate, right? Communication is the second most important thing, right? Your first impressions, and that's how you communicate with, people. Obviously, not being, rude, not being,
Yeah.
being a presentable person, right? Not always using like foul words and things like that. Like, in a professional line of work, right? In a professional circumstance where you're networking with important people, like, that's not something that people attract people. You know what I mean? They're like,
Yeah.
oh, like this person, in this line of business, but it has this kind of vocabulary, right? Vocabulary is very important, right? In whatever line of work that you do, is knowing what you're speaking about, because it like, people know when you're talking about something that you know about, right? They can
Yeah.
tell, like, through his vocabulary, through his actions, through the way he presents himself, even the way you
Yeah.
stand, and all those things are very, very important, and people take notice of that.
I agree with you. I would say that up there with being on time, looking presentable, communicating. I would say being respectful as well. And I agree with you. You said something like the way you speak. Like, if you go meet someone and you say fuck a lot, bitch this, bitch that, people are not gonna like. Especially as a first impression, I would not like be looking forward to working with that person or to go into a project with that person. Unless that person already has a big reputation and they're just like that, then yes. But if it's
Hmm.
just somebody I don't know and they just come in like that, I'm like, no, you know. For me, if I my first impressions, I'm very polite, very respectful. I use good vocabulary, but like let's say I'm with my friends, yeah, sometimes I use some slang words, sometimes I use some vocab that I would not use when meeting a person of importance or making a first
Hmm.
impression. But it's just normal. Like when you and I talk, we use different kinds of words and different things, and it's okay between us. But I guarantee you that if both of us go into a job interview, we're not going to use that kind of language.
For sure.
And even then, we're very polite towards each other. Well, we have that respect and things like that. And to be honest
Hmm.
with you, I am personally trying to cut out any foul language that I use like on a daily basis because I want to transcend into a different level.
Transcendent to flow. That's a good objective.
Exactly.
Now, also, I think another important thing when you're networking, right, is learning, listening and learning, right. Um, when you're in a meeting in a work related social situation, for example, there's a lot of different entities, right, of different ranks, different importance, right, and I think it's very important to take the seat of being being the person with less knowledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Acting like you have less knowledge. Never be the one who comes out, and boasts and things like that. Listen first, right? See what these other people are about. Learn as much as you can, um, and you can learn a lot of valuable information like that. I think.
I agree with you. Sometimes by being quiet, you end up being the smartest person in the room because by the end of the conversation, you know everything, you know?
Yeah.
And instead of trying to be a know it all and showing off that you know something or whatever, you might be wrong. If you're quiet and you hear other people, you can develop your own opinion. If it's about something you don't know, you'll be more informed. And like you say, like we have 2 years and one mouth to listen double the amount of what we speak. So listening is good for self development and learning. I agree with you. We're
I think
geniuses, bro.
I think listening is a skill too.
Yeah, I agree
Like
with you.
one thing is like hearing words, right, and understanding what they're saying, and one thing is it's just like, oh, I heard the guy's conversation, and 2 minutes later you forget it. You're driving, home, and you're like, oh, what did my boss say about that? I can't remember what he says. So also listening can be a skill. It's something you practice, paying attention to what they say, learning the key words, and understanding, right?
Yeah, that's something that is good to mention because I would say maybe especially most speaking of people I've been around from our generation, I would say there are a lot of people that do not have good listening skills. you know, we could be talking about something that's important, and 5 minutes later they won't know what was happening because they were not paying attention. And I agree with you. Listening is a very important skill that people should like master,
For
or
sure.
not maybe not master, but get good at.
Yeah. What else do you think is important for networking?
I would say not being dull,
Hmm.
being an interesting person, not trying to just come off super polite, super think because you end up being dull. Having a good balance between being respectful and being open about your life, and sharing your things, making a conversation because that's how you develop things. That's how you develop a closer, more personal, professional relationship or just friendship and whatever, anything. And I think it's good to find like a balance between because you don't want to come across as a goofy person and you want to come across as someone dull. You want to come across as someone who is potentially an interesting person. Even if
Yeah,
you're not, come across like that. I would recommend that 100%.
for sure. Being
And
enthusiastic, being charismatic, being energetic,
yeah,
not speaking in a monotone voice, for example, are all like very subtle ways of communicating with people and things. Um, I was gonna say that also there's very important. There's a lack of emphasis, for example, on learning how to, for example, storytelling. tell stories, for example. I think is really, really important. It's actually something I'm not very good at. It's something I'm trying to work at better, for example, because they say the currency or the way successful people communicate is through storytelling. They don't sit around and talk simplistically in simple terms. They communicate, they socialize, they network through their stories. They bring people through them. People come to listen to their stories. The way they tell the stories. It's not just the stories. It's the way they present it. It's the way they tell it, right? And people are fascinated by that. People are attracted to that, and I think that's really important. It's a skill that if you can when you're younger to start, practicing with the people you know and learn and master.
I like that storytelling, and even just the way of how you say things, how you come across, being energetic, knowing what kind of tone of voice to use about towards the certain topic you
Mm-hmm.
might be sharing about. It's important, and I agree with you 100%. Well, you were coming across with really good points, to be honest. Um,
The importance
yeah,
of articulation, yeah.
yeah, it's 100% important. I would say, especially for both of us, I would say we're developing the storytelling skills, the listening skills. I think we're developing a lot of different kinds of skills by just making this podcast that will
Mm-hmm.
benefit us when we're networking. Because not only are we talking to each other, but we're putting ourselves out there for other people to see, no matter the amount of people that watch, if it's too low or too high. We're still putting ourselves out there. And we're open to criticism. And that's important too, being able
Yeah.
to take in constructive criticism in order to improve yourself. Because if you cannot take criticism, your networking is going to drop 100%.
You've got to try. Like, and
Yeah.
there's no point at which you're going to be networking people with, um, being the person that you know the most. Most likely, you'll never be there. There's always somebody who knows more than you, and
Exactly.
don't be afraid of taking that chance and being like, "Hey, I know less than you. Let's talk about it. Teach me." And I think that's really important because that's how you learn about things. You learn about topics. Um, and yeah, that's what I would say.
I want to say that also ask a lot of questions, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Don't just take everything at face value because you don't know if you don't do your own research, you don't know whether that person's right or not. I'm not saying doubt everybody. I'm just saying be be curious, be questionable, ask questions, try to learn more. If somebody says this, ask why, how come, why is it like that, why is it not like this? Be interesting. For me, I love being in conversations with people that are older than me or people that are more experienced than me, because I may not have the floor to talk a lot. Most of the times I'm just there quiet for 2 hours or three, depending on how long the conversation goes, and I'm just listening. And then maybe towards the end of the conversation, sometimes I jump in with an idea or an opinion that I have by gathering all the information and making a personal decision and choice of what I've heard and what I want to do, what I think. And I just love learning from people's experiences, listening
Mm-hmm.
and talking about it, and just learning in general is important. And I don't think a lot of people value that.
And going into that idea, what do you think are good places to network? You're not going to do it maybe at a mall or something. Where are frequent places you could go, for example, where you're going to meet interesting people? I mean, I guess it depends on your line of work, right? Like different
Yeah.
lines of work have different areas, for example, that you're going to find people. So I think that's what I would say is identify what you want to learn about, what kind of field you're working with, and like where those kind of people meet. What do those people do? What do they spend time? There was a famous thing, I think they say, why aren't Lamborghini ads on television? Because their target audience isn't sitting on a sofa watching television, right? So understanding where the people you want to network with meet, what they do, what they work with, is very, very important.
When you asked me where can I network, I did not know if you're meaning by in person or online, because online, I would say one of the biggest apps that people use to network is LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I use LinkedIn personally, and I really like it because it allows me to connect with different people. And some
Mm-hmm.
people I don't know personally, but because they have a mutual connection with a known person, we network and we can talk about different things, and then we get to know each other. Instagram is a very big networking tool and promotional tool as well. What else? I would say WhatsApp.
I think in person, for like in person meeting, like you can hold annual conferences and things, where it's open.
Yeah.
A lot of small business, I mean big businesses too, but a lot of small businesses who want to reach out to a bigger market take a risk, right? They put in investment, they rent, an area, space for a certain amount of time where people can come together, bring ideas, right? Because you want people to come together, share things, and you network through that kind of method.
And not only that, but attending events,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even, let's say at your university, for example, they might put this poster up saying like, oh, next Thursday, there will be an event for people that want to learn more about business and other things like that. And it's important
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to attend, because that way, not only do you meet people with the same interest as you, but you meet the person that's giving out that seminar or running that event that is more knowledgeable, and then you can meet them in person, develop that professional contact. And I would say if you have an opportunity to attend events like that, like I fully recommend. I know I don't have a lot of experience yet in that sense, but from my small experience, I would personally like say go for it, and I want to keep doing that more and more as older I get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, show your worth, right?
Yeah.
When you meet people, show what you have to offer. People want to know people who have something to offer. If you don't have anything to offer, right? They'll be like, who's this guy? Who's this guy trying to talk to me? I don't know him. What does he do? What does he bring, right? And so have something to offer, have something that will catch their attention, to make sure they remember you, That's very, very important.
And I think that people also look for people that challenge them, I would say, for example, if you're a business owner or a CEO, if you're looking at an employee, I think you want someone that would challenge you, is up for challenges, and it's not just coming in to, compliment you and do everything you ask for. Someone that has is their own person and wants to challenge themselves, challenge you, and go into the same direction that the CEO wants to go in. You know,
Mm-hmm.
grow the business, not
Yeah,
just
he
people
isn't
that
just he
are.
isn't just a person who's coming here to work and get a paycheck. He's somebody who
Yeah,
has an
exactly.
objective. He has like
Value has
he has a
value.
value. Exactly. He's like, I bring this to the company. I bring this to your business model. I can do this that no other worker that you have can do, and that will catch their attention.
Yes, and I think that a lot of people, especially at our age, they don't have a lot of value because it's going to sound bad, but for me, having value is being hardworking, challenging yourself, putting yourself out of your comfort zone most times. So that's how you grow,
Mhm.
and being driven, chase your dreams, chase your goals. That gives you value. If you're just there, like, yeah, you have no value. No offense, but you have no value. And if you're someone that just plays video games and does nothing and just has no ambition, maybe you should consider reading a book, going out a bit, going on a hike, exploring things, and just study and research things and find out what you would like to do, or maybe an area you'd like to try out. This is some advice. Because you're just there playing video games, at some point you're just gonna get bored of it. It's been 2 years since I've played in my PlayStation. It's been, I would say
Fair
it's
enough.
been very educational for me.
Good. Well, that was our episode for today. That was our topic. Thank you, Rodrigo, for coming on today's episode, talking with me, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, thank you guys for listening to this episode. It's been shorter than previous episodes, so that's good for you guys. And hopefully you now consider networking as a more important aspect in your life than maybe you thought it was, and just keep growing your network. It's important.
Yes, sir.
See you next week.
you next week.